Good morning, Bucknutters. It is Thursday, April 26, 2018. I'm Dan Ruhlman. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and Change. Joined, as always, by Steve Wiltfong. Steve, it is fresh and clean and crisp outside. A wonderful day. You guys should have tuned in for the first 15 minutes of this discussion. It would have been premium worthy. How are you this fine day?
Daniel, I could be doing better. The sun is shining, but Oladipo to the rim, goaltending, not called, and then everyone knows what happened after that. And I appreciate the greatness of LeBron. I'm not a LeBron hater. I think you guys know that. Once my team is out, I start rooting with Bill Kurelic and the Cavs. But, man, it's been a tough couple games to swallow. I went to Game 4, had the lead in the fourth quarter and blew it. And then last night, Oladipo to the rim, blow by, goaltending. Should have been 2 with the pressure on the Cavs. Then the Pacers had a foul to give, so that would have been interesting late in the ball game. So don't feel good about that. Make matters worse, the Indians beat the Cubs yesterday. So I don't even know if I can talk to the Dean today.
Not surprising, the Dean contacted me this morning to let me know that baseball result should be added into my morning 5 here. So you took care of that yourself. And I'm going to share with you something that Miles Turner now knows. I saw a shot of Miles Turner after the game right as it had happened. And as a Wizards fan who watched LeBron travel his way through the playoffs earlier in his career, what you realize is you are just a character in the history book of LeBron. No one's going to remember the Pacers. No one's going to remember the Wizards. This is all just anecdotal stuff going around LeBron, as painful as that is.
I could make an argument the NBA playoffs is better than March Madness. And I love March Madness too, but the best athletes in the world digging in, going the game of runs. There was so many runs in last night's game, and we're talking about the 4-5 series. I just love I love basketball, so I like college basketball, but the NBA is just different to me. I've always loved the NBA.
For a true basketball geek that really loves like the quality of play and the display of true basketball greatness, I would agree. I also love the fact that the games are on all the time. But in terms of just drama and narrative and, everybody in your office being, watching the TV and freaking out, the NCAA tournament has it. But you are right, and the NBA is in a great spot. Now, we have talked about basketball so much that there's probably 3 or 4 listeners left. Tonight is the NFL Draft. We're going to start with discussion of a non-Buckeye here because I learned this. I have heard throughout this draft process that Quentin Nelson of Notre Dame could be the greatest guard of all time. I did a little research on Quentin and jarred my memory banks, found out from Steve Wiltfong it came down to Ohio State or Notre Dame for the New Jersey native. And what was the difference?
I think at the end of the day, I think his parents valued what Notre Dame's education, the perception of that, and the degree meant. I think that was one of the major differences for him choosing Notre Dame. Now, Notre Dame at the time also wasn't far removed from playing in a national championship game too. So, and then I want to say Zach Martin. I don't really remember if Zach Martin was on the team or was already a first-year NFL All-Pro, but Notre Dame had a lot of things going for him at the time, and we all know that when it comes to offensive linemen, Notre Dame can go toe-to-toe with anyone. They don't get them all. Nicholas Petit-Frere evidence in last year's cycle, but they recruit the offensive line very well, have a good shot at kids, and Quentin Nelson committed to the Irish over Ohio State.
I want to talk a little about one offensive lineman here, and Steve, you can chime in if need be, but Jamarco Jones is a name people haven't heard a lot coming up to this draft process, and that's because I think he's so high on everybody's board that everyone's trying to do the old clandestine approach. And I think it's interesting that the most we ever talked about Jamarco Jones was this Twitter kerfuffle night when we thought he might flip to Michigan State. You didn't really even hear about him, and he was a 3-year starter, which is a good sign for our left tackle. So big ups to Jamarco, and he will do well tonight. He won't get picked up.
That was a big commitment.
It was huge.
That was a big commitment when Jamarco committed. He was considered a Michigan State lean for a lot of the process, and that's why people were nervous when he took that Michigan State lean late. And I'll never forget Coach Meyer saying, I'm never going to stop a kid from taking a visit whenever he wants to take a visit. My daughter's a volleyball player. We're not going to let another college staff dictate what my daughter's going to do. he's like, now we were worried that Jamarco made that visit so late, but he ended up making the decision to stick with Ohio State. But my memory of Jamarco Jones committing to Ohio State was at the press conference. One of our Michigan State writers brought one of their kids to the press conference at Jamarco's school and lost track of his kid when he was setting up his camera. And Jamarco went to Chicago De La Salle, and it had the Chicago De La Salle backdrop, and that writer's kid took out the backdrop. All of a sudden you hear a big loud noise. The backdrop falls onto the table in front of the deal. And so I wanted to take
found the kid.
I wanted to take my 24/7 Sports shirt off at that moment and say I'm not with those guys. But ended up getting it cleaned up. Jamarco sat at the table and picked Ohio State.
Now, would he have picked Michigan State had that not fallen? We'll never know. So big ups to 24/7. Let's talk quarterback. It would not be a podcast. It would not be Ohio State if quarterback wasn't discussed. Thankfully today it will not be anyone currently on campus because that story is getting tired. But I digress. It doesn't seem like I talked to Bill about this on Tuesday's BM5. It really doesn't seem like they're totally geeked on any quarterback. I don't get that sense, but I could be wrong. This weekend, I think the guy that everyone thinks could be their quarterback, Grant Gunnell, will be visiting. What's your vibe on Gunnell? You think he'll leave a Buckeye, and maybe your overall vibes on the quarterback situation at this point in the cycle?
Well, I think Ohio State's right there in the thick of it for Grant Gunnell, who changed some visits around to come back to Columbus. You know, he was originally scheduled to be at Oklahoma State's spring game this weekend, and instead of doing that, he's taken an official to Ohio State. So, if you're the Buckeyes, you like those chances with him taking his second visit. I don't know what he's ultimately going to do. I see Oregon's in the mix. I think Oregon's about to get this young man named Cale Millen, who was committed to Northwestern, Hugh Millen's son. So
I was going to say, Hugh Millen's son?
Yeah, he's not going to Texas A&M. LSU's in play. You like Ohio State over Oklahoma State right now, right? If you're, all things considered, he was going to visit Oklahoma State and not doing that to go to Ohio State. Sometimes you have to ignore logic and recruiting coverage, but right now, the logic answer says Ohio State's ahead of Oklahoma State, so that leaves LSU. He had a really good visit to UCLA. How much of a factor are they? I don't know. I know that Chip Kelly really made a good impression on Grant. Arizona, Cal, or some other schools that have been mentioned. So as we talk this thing out loud together right now, kind of have to like the Buckeyes going into this weekend's visit.
Yeah, I just think quarterback recruiting has gotten screwy in this year. I don't know if it's affected by what's going on in Columbus or anything like that, but nothing's going to surprise me the way this works out. Another position we've heard a lot about, both on campus right now and on the recruiting trail, is tight end. For those who don't know, Luke Farrell has emerged and will be the starter for the fall, and they're also, as we all know, geeked beyond belief about the arrival of Jeremy Ruckert. So tight end has a chance to become a little bit more of a glamorous spot here in Columbus. There was much talk of Brandon Liebrock a while ago for a prep tight end. Then there was talk of Luke Deal. Now I see Luke Deal, multiple crystal balls favored towards the Fighting Dabo Swinneys of Clemson. Can you give us an update on tight end?
Well, I think they're in it for Braden Liebrock, also a 4-star from Arizona who took a visit earlier this spring. I think the Buckeyes are in the thick of that one. Luke Deal grew up a Clemson fan and got the offer, and that's the school geographically that's closest to him of his finalists. So, again, if you play the logic game, which sometimes will burn you in recruiting, you like Clemson's chances there. But Kevin Wilson, Ohio State's assistant coach, I believe one of Luke Deal's current coaches was a GA for Kevin Wilson at Indiana, so there's some inroads there. And then we talked Luke Deal, we talked Braden Liebrock. Did we leave someone out?
Eric All.
Oh, no, those are the guys. So I don't know if they'll land either of them, but they're in it for Lee Brock as well. Ruckert's going to be a star.
How about a little more on that?
Well, we've talked about it at length. I just wanted to throw it in there again. I mean, he was the best player at the opening finals one of the days, which you're talking about all the best high school football prospects in the country. Jeremy Ruckert was an absolute alpha male, dominant force in the 7-on-7 portion with his ability to make plays downfield, his ball skills, just his tenacity as a competitor. Again, he was really good at the Army Bowl practice. And then at the Polynesian Bowl, the guys I talked to at the Polynesian Bowl just talked about him always being the first one out on the field, the guy that competed the hardest all week. So I just think he brings the right combination of tangibles and intangibles at a need position for Ohio State. And Ruckert, people negative recruited Ohio State in saying that they don't go to the tight end. And Ruckert's like, look, they're going to go to me if I'm good enough to catch the football. And so I expect him to be a difference maker for Ohio State in the passing game, and a guy that flashes in his first year, and then a guy that's a star before he leaves Columbus.
I always like to leave you with a little bit of optimism. We'll meet you back here on April 26, 2021, when Jeremy Ruckert is headed for the first round. Have a good one, Bucknutters.
Take care, guys. Thanks, Daniel.